We have seen in the last class how Coriolis acceleration could be used for measuring the angular velocities, especially in MEMS gyro. So we have seen the MEMS gyro, it uses the Coriolis principle. And some of the other applications now, the new applications which are coming in is in the VR. Today you have some headsets are available called VR headsets, that is the virtual reality headsets. So what virtual reality is, suppose I have a photograph. If I take a photograph of this class, if I look at in one angle or if I look at from a different angle, it will always remain the same. But that is not the reality. In reality, if I see here, I see a different section of people. If I change my head and see, I see the different section of the people. But if you take a static photograph or even your video camera, you will always see the same picture. So view will not change. So virtual reality is, it is close to the reality in the sense initially a photograph will be taken which is a 360-degree photograph. Then some of them, the cheaper version comes with the mobile can be put in the headset. So when you see in this direction, what you will see, that will be shown in your eyepiece. Then if I change my view head like this to view, then earlier I would have taken a picture that this angle, what is the thing seen? This is the door. It will show the door. So if I keep on turning the head like this, I will be seeing different views which you are supposed to see in reality. So for that you need to measure the angular orientations. There again the gyroscope comes into picture. Now in the Coriolis derivation, I will take what is given in the book called Martin. His approach is little different. So with that I think we will finish the topic of dealing with Coriolis acceleration. So there is a slider which is sliding in a link with the angular velocity v0. So this slider is rotating with the angular velocity omega 0. So you have the linear velocity of the slider in this direction. Of course, by now you know that since something is moving in a rotating frame, there will be a Coriolis acceleration. But now how to derive this? Let us take the link at a different orientation, that is after certain time. That time is say dt. So this angle d theta, that is given by omega 0 dt. Now the approach is little different in the sense he has taken the coincident points. If you take this link as 2, the slider as link 3, you can think of 2 points, P2 and P3, which are coincident at that particular instant. P2 belongs to the link, P3 belongs to the slider. So they are coincident at that particular instant. Now after a while of dt, this has reached a new place. So now this will be still moving with the velocity v0. So what we do is this slider has initial in this position, now it is in this position. So the displacement of the slider is split into various components. Say this is P2 dash. Then we say something like this. This is, say, the another point. This is given as B. This point is, say, P3 dash. So the slider initially has at the point P3 and it was coinciding with the P2. Now the P3 has moved to a new position called P3 dash. The displacement is split into various segments and we have the three segments. Take segment 1, that is P2 to P2 dash. Then segment 2 from P2 dash to B. Segment 3 is B, P3 dash. So let us say the first segment is P2, P2 dash. Second segment, the path this has moved. The second segment is P2 dash B. We have the third segment, that is B P3 dash. The argument given by Martin is, if suppose you consider the acceleration of this by change in magnitude only. Of course, he has not mentioned that the acceleration due to magnitude. If you take the acceleration due to the change in magnitude, then P2, P2 dash. P2, P2 dash, the velocity of P2 or P2 dash is given by, omega 0 times this distance, that is, suppose I say this is O2, P2. The velocity of this point is given by this radius, that is O2 P2 and omega 0. Is there a change in the magnitude of this velocity? Because this is a constant and this is again a constant, both are constant, so we can say the acceleration due to magnitude doesn't exist. Because I look at the acceleration due to magnitude alone, then the velocity of P2 as the slider is moving, the point P2 will be having a velocity. That velocity is given, the magnitude of velocity is given by omega 0 O2 P2. Omega 0 is constant, O2 P2 is constant, so there is no change in the velocity, magnitude of velocity. So the acceleration due to the magnitude doesn't exist as the slider is moving from here to here. Then we have the slider from here to here, then it moves in this path, path number 2. Path number 2 is P2 dash P. So this path is aligned towards the earlier direction. It is aligned toward the radial direction. So the velocity of that is V0, that is also constant. So this is a constant, this is a constant in magnitude. Therefore, it cannot have any acceleration. Here it cannot have any acceleration. So the acceleration would come only in this particular path. As it moves from B to P3 dash, the acceleration is happening due to the magnitude. So only here the acceleration is taking place. So what is this? From here it has moved here, here, here. It is split in that way. When you split that as the total translation of this, total displacement of this is split into three parts, and it is argued like among the three parts only during BP3 dash you have the acceleration. So suppose you are able to write the equation for acceleration, then you will be seeing what is the type of acceleration or what is its magnitude. So what is BP3 dash? If I take the path so this also will be equal to d theta. So path BP3 dash is given by BP2 dash into d theta. So BP2 dash is given by the velocity V0 into dt. D theta is given by omega 0 into dt. Therefore, this is given by omega 0 V0 dt square. That is that path. The distance BP3 dash is given by omega 0 V0 dt square. We know that the displacement and acceleration, this is a linear acceleration, then you know that S, the distance, is given by half a t square. So in this case, the displacement is given S is equal to half a t square. So S is nothing but the path length, that is PP3 dash, that is given by omega 0 V0 dt square, that is equal to half of, what are the acceleration that you are going to, this is going to experience A into T is dt square. So what you get is dt square is cancelled out. So you have A, that is the acceleration, is given by 2 times omega 0 V0. You see that this acceleration is nothing but the product of the angular velocity and the linear velocity, and multiplied by 2, twice the product. So that acceleration is nothing but your Coriolis acceleration. Okay? So you have any doubt? So basically we are taking this, the displacement, into 3 segments and say that it's a magnitude change of velocity. Velocity or acceleration due to the change in magnitude of the velocity alone is considered. Here in this path it is constant, in this path it is constant. So only in this path the acceleration should have occurred. So if you take that path of BP3 dash, then that is given by this. So S is equal to half a t square. So you get this as an acceleration, that is Coriolis. So the Coriolis acceleration we have derived by at least 3 ways. One is by just taking the vector as a complex form, in a complex form, when you derive this, you automatically get this. We have derived it as taking the two velocities, finding the vector, the centripetal acceleration and Coriolis acceleration comes. So we discussed with the problem from the Applied Dynamics book. Now this is from another book called Martin. Okay, so why we have taken so many different ways of solving it? Because it is the highest order of concept in this particular subject. So you have to know the different ways that it is dealt with. You have any doubts? Now we will move on to the general acceleration. Okay, so that then after that we will work out a problem. Let's say there is a rigid body and there is a curved slot. And if there is a slider, this curved slot. Earlier you remember we have taken a slot which is straight. There is no necessity that the curve or the slot need to be a straight one. It can be a curved, can be arbitrarily curved, no problem. So there is a slider which is moving in a curved slot in a rigid body. Say it is velocity is say given here as v. I will add notations later. Suppose this is moving at a constant velocity like this. What is the kind of acceleration this will be subjected to? Or it should be subjected to? Because it is moving in a curved path, its direction of velocity would be changing. So it will be subjected to a normal acceleration. That acceleration will be like this. So because this is your curvature, the center of the curvature is somewhere here. So this will be the acceleration normal. Okay, you have any doubt about this? I have a curved slot and a slot in that a slider is moving at a constant velocity. The only acceleration this could be subjected to is a acceleration. So this is your center of curvature at that particular location. This is the center of curvature. Towards that a component will act. That is your normal acceleration component. There is a case number 2. The slider need not move at a constant velocity. It can be accelerating. So the slider is accelerating. Then acceleration, it's not moving at a constant velocity. Its velocity is changing with respect to time. Probably you take it is increasing with respect to time. Then the acceleration of this can be in the same direction. Then it is acceleration tangential. Okay, that's another component. Suppose I take a point here, P2, which is part of this rigid body 2, I consider the link, the slider as a third link, then I can think of a coincident point which is say P3. So P2 is a point which is on this rigid body. P3 is a point which is on the slider. At this instant, both of them are coincident. Then I can give certain notations to it. Now this is the velocity of P3 with respect to P2. So how do I write that velocity of the slider? Velocity of the slider is given by velocity of P3 with respect to P2. Now you see that there is a slash, which means that P3 and P2 are in a different bodies. They are not in the same bodies, and this represents the relative velocity. And this acceleration component is also, we can call it as acceleration of P3 with respect to P2. Because everything is relative to this body 2. This acceleration also will have P3 with respect to P2. You have any doubts about this? There is a slider which is accelerating in a curved slot. So when it is accelerating in a curved slot, fortunately it is not so complex in the sense that we are dealing with the planar problems. Suppose it is a spatial problem. You are in a, what do you call, roller coaster. Roller coaster rides. Then what kind of motion you will undergo? It will be like this. So you will be undergoing a curved path, curved motion, but a 3-dimensional. Okay? So what kind of acceleration you will be subjected to? It is little complex. Not very easy, but one level up, because this is planar problems, that will be a spatial problem where you may have to divide the accelerations as vectors in I, j, k components. That's all. Not very difficult. So here it is a planar. Slot is planar, and what is the slider is moving in a planar, and it is accelerating. That acceleration is also in the same direction, and these are the various. So you will have a normal acceleration and tangential acceleration. Now let me put it in another case. This acceleration can be negative in the sense that it can be in the opposite direction of the velocity. This can be acceleration of P3 with respect to P2. That means its velocity is decreasing. Okay? It can be on either way. The direction can be reversed also. No problem. Now, I am going to introduce the next level of complexity. That is, I will redraw this. I have a slot like this. I consider only the point 2 now. Forget about the slider. And this is rotating with the angular velocity omega. This is the same body. This is link 2. There is no slider now. Forget about the slider. Think about that there is a point here which is attached to 2. What kind of acceleration this will be subjected to? Or will there be any acceleration? Because point 2 is not at all moving. It is attached to the rotating frame 2. Will it be subjected to any acceleration? Yes, it will be subjected to the acceleration that is normal. Okay? Acceleration of point P, which is attached to this linkage 2, which is rotating, with a constant angular velocity, there will be a normal acceleration component. So I can say this is acceleration of P2 normal. Next level. It is not only accelerating, it is not only rotating, it has an angular acceleration as well. So let me say, because it is reference to 2, omega 2 and alpha 2. What kind of acceleration this will experience? It will anyway experience a normal component, but there will be a tangential component now coming in. So the tangential component will be perpendicular to this, and this component will be acceleration of P2 tangential. So acceleration of P2 alone is taken in this case. Any other complexity you can introduce more than this? I don't think it's not there. So you are considering 2 alone, it can be rotating with constant angular velocity, and then there will be only a normal component. If it is having an angular acceleration also, then there will be a component like this. Suppose the angular acceleration is in this direction. What it means? Its speed is increasing. It is increasing, so this will be tangential, but this is the acceleration of P2 tangential. The direction will be changed. Okay, now you merge these two cases together. Okay, so I have a rigid body with a curved slot in it. Then you have this slider. This is not stationary. Now it is rotating with the angular velocity omega 2 and with an angular acceleration alpha 2. Then ignore the slider. What are the acceleration you will get is, for this point P2, we have seen that there will be a component acceleration of P2 normal, and you have acceleration of P2 tangential. So if you ask me to write the acceleration equation for P3, acceleration of P3 will be given by acceleration of P2 plus acceleration of P3 with respect to P2. That is the equation. So acceleration of P3 will have, this is acceleration of P2. Acceleration of P2 has two components, acceleration of P2 normal plus acceleration of P2 tangential. So that is the for acceleration of P2. So acceleration of, now there is a slider. Let me, to avoid confusion, let me rub this out. Now I have a slider. Slider is moving at a velocity of v. That velocity is given by acceleration of velocity of P3 with respect to P2. Then it will have a component like this, that is acceleration of P3 with respect to P2. That is the normal component. That is because the very nature that there is it's not following a straight path, its direction will be shifting. But apart from that, this slider, if it is having its own acceleration, that to say it is decelerating, you will have a acceleration like this. This is acceleration of P2 P3 with respect to P2 tangential. So it is not, this is calculated, but this should be given. You have to say that this is accelerating in this way. It should be given. This velocity should be given. So now acceleration of P3 with respect to P2, what are the components? You have acceleration of P3 with respect to P2 normal plus acceleration of P3 with respect to P2 tangential. Because as you see that there are two components of acceleration, even if this is stationary. Okay? Now the final term is to be added. It is not complete with these two terms. We have to add one more term to this, because if something is moving relative to in a rotating frame, an acceleration term is added to it, that is acceleration of P3 with respect to P2 Coriolis. Then if you add this Coriolis component, you will get the full term of acceleration. Okay? So this is, I would say, the most complicated case in a planar motion as such, but it is not the most complicated thing. The most complicated things are when you take up something in the spatial. Say, let me discuss that later, a little while from now. Now, you have any doubt? So, I have taken painfully the three cases. When 2 is fixed and the slider is having an acceleration, these are the components. When 2 is rotating, there is no slider, point P2 which is fixed to that will have these accelerations. Yes, of course, acceleration of P3 is nothing but acceleration of P2 plus acceleration of P3 slash P2. So this has two components, as we have seen here. When it is rotating, it comes. You have these two components. And P3 plus P2, relative to this, even if it is not rotating, you will have the normal component and tangential component. But because this is rotating, you will have this component comes in. That is the Coriolis component. If you add this, you will be able to determine the acceleration of the general motion of a slider in a rotating frame. Okay, reserve your question, no problem. You take some time to digest it. Suppose you are able to understand this, probably you can crack any type of problems. Now, what could be the most complicated kind of a problems? Maybe like you have a truck which is a concrete mixture which is carrying the concrete, transports the concrete from a mixer unit to the place where it is being loaded. You could have seen such a concrete mixer. You will see that this particular thing is rotating, and this rotating thing is placed on a truck which itself is moving with some velocity. This may be taking a turn with an acceleration. Then you can calculate what is the acceleration, net acceleration of point which is fixed to this rotating frame, or you can think of the acceleration of a small stone which is moving relative to that. So those things are really a little complicated stuff, but these kind of things are more practical, not just an academic thing. So it's not complicated in the sense that if you follow the approach of rotating frames suggested in that book, Applied Dynamics, you will be able to solve it. So I would say you can reserve these kind of problems for your vacation. During vacation you can open up that book and start solving the problems. You will become really good. Now you have a Norton's book. I thought I'd give a small pass, the pass in the sense, not going to the acceleration or Coriolis, something which is of interest to you. Now the effect of acceleration on human beings. So it is given as given in 7.6. It is human tolerance to acceleration. What is the effect of acceleration on human body? How much our human body can withstand? So that is a small topic, very interesting. What do you think is an effect of acceleration on human beings? All of you must be subjected to a kind of an acceleration when you are traveling in a bus or a train, when brakes are applied, or when there is an acceleration. When the speed is picked up, the kind of acceleration that you experience in a bus or road or car is very, very small. But you can't really experience this, an acceleration which is not so small but will give you some kind of inconvenience. The takeoff of an aircraft. When an aircraft takes up, some people will feel something is wrong in the belly. There is another place where you will be experiencing such acceleration. Some people vomit. When there is a heavy acceleration, they are subjected to, they will vomit. So who will experience heavy accelerations as a part of their job? If you find that fighter pilots, fighter plane pilots will experience a heavy acceleration. If it is found that planes crash because they simply faint, they are not able to withstand that acceleration, some of them are killed because of this acceleration. So the army and the space administration, I think in NASA, they conducted a test, series of tests, to find out how much acceleration a human can withstand. Because that decides a lot of things. You see that I have an aircraft carrier, the fighter flight will be there, fighter plane will be there here. It has to accelerate and reach its required takeoff velocity in the shortest given runway. I cannot expand the runway like anything, it is all limited. So within this distance it has to accelerate. So suppose I can accelerate this to the great extent where the human beings can, the pilot can endure that kind of acceleration, then I can reduce this aircraft carrier runway length, then I can store more planes and arms rather than wasting the deck for full takeoff. So, what is the limit of human tolerance for the acceleration? They have conducted series of tests. One of the tests, is a very crude form, is just they tie somebody in the chair and they fix the rockets here, fire these rockets, so it will take these people like that. Then later they found that a gentle way of doing this, not putting a person on the chair and firing the rocket. They use some gentle way of putting them in a rotating platform, or there will be a small cabin here attached to an arm. It is like a centrifuge. They increase the speed. Here it is not a moving frame where you cannot do anything. Since it is moving, it is relatively within the thing. I can connect the wires and a camera and all this to see what is happening to him, whether he is still conscious. So by doing this acceleration test, they have found that there is a test, the report which says that what is the maximum limit of human beings' tolerance in various directions. If you say this is y and x, you can subject him to this y level, vertical level and horizontal level like that. They found that, the general, if we don't go into the extremes of the detail of this, in general, the maximum tolerance the human being can be subjected to acceleration of 9 times g. 9 times g means approximately g is 10. So it is 90 meters per second square. That is the maximum tolerance the human being can endure. So they found this. So based on this, they have decided that none of this machinery, war machinery, can subject the pilot to that acceleration or more than that. So they have to limit that accelerations. Then accelerations, what happens? When you put 9g or 10g, you find that it is a very, very, a sophisticated way of killing a person. You cannot find any wound on his body, he will be killed. Why? What kills them? So what experience, the human beings experience when they are subjected to a heavy acceleration? There are two things which are said. One is the red out, then second one is a blackout. What is red out or what is blackout? When you are accelerated downwards, which are very high acceleration, the blood flow, all this will be towards your head. When you are going down, then your brain will be flooded with so much blood. The pressure in the veins will increase. It may give you a red. What you will see is the whole thing is red. And if you sustain this for more than few seconds, these veins will burst and it is a death. So the death can be, in that case, will be due to the excessive blood to the brain. That is called, another thing called blackout. When you are accelerated upwards, then all the blood will be towards the legs. So you have a deprivation of blood. What you will see is blackout. Either red out or blackout is due to the excessive blood or no blood to the brain, or both of them is capable of killing the person. So that is why in some of the very strong, very, very bad accidents, you can see people are killed without any even injury. just it will kill. So only way to avoid is, you cannot have yourself in an independent motion. So you put a seat belt. When you wear the seat belt, the acceleration cannot be more than what your vehicle is. Otherwise you will go and jam or ram against the steering or your front. So there is, later on they found the way of cushioning that collision by having a airbags. Okay, so airbags are given the name of SRS airbag. It is written as SRS airbag. For quite some time I was thinking that SRS is the company which manufactures the airbag. Probably they have a patent so that every airbag is made by a company called SRS. Later I was told by Sudhakar, it is not SRS. SRS is not a company, it is a secondary restraining system. So airbag is a secondary restraining system. First should be your seat belt. So how the seat belt works, it is a very nice piece of equipment you can study. Now the other things. What about acceleration? I told you the ill effects of acceleration. The fighter pilot experiences acceleration. People thought that there is an opportunity to give the same experience of a fighter pilot to the common man and get money. So that is how the amusement parks have come out, with so much of rides, roller coasters, power tower, okay, dragster. So there are so many rides. What I ultimately found is that all of them subject yourself to the kind of an acceleration a pilot will experience. So some of them will have a linear acceleration like this. Some of them will take you vertically and make a free fall. Some of them will put you on a twisting motion. The other one will take you there and make a free fall with a rotation. So these kind of the varied amusement park riders are nothing but putting yourself into a kind of an acceleration where you will see the only place where the screaming is out of joy, not out of pain. Okay, so there you will see, if you watch, everybody is screaming when they are on the rides. Now some of the informations that is very interesting. Now because of the competition between various amusement parks, the designers will try to give you more and more acceleration. But yes, more and more acceleration is dangerous. It may kill. So the US state, each state has come out with a law. This is the maximum acceleration you can subject a rider of a roller coaster. So what is that? Roller coasters 3.5 to 6.5 G. Each state may have a law saying that the roller coaster in this state cannot subject the user, the customer, more than say 3.5 to 6.5 G. Okay, so there they limit. NASA space shuttle, when they launch, take it off, it is 4 G. Obviously it is not meant for killing a person. Top fuel dragster, there is a race called dragster, it is 4.5 G. Military jet pilot, it is about 9 G, but not with the normal dress. There is a special G suit is given when they are wearing that kind of a jacket called a G suit. Then they are permitted to go up to 9 G. But let us not talk about all these things. What are the normal thing? A normal gentle acceleration in automobile is 0.1 G. Commercial aircraft takeoff is 0.3 G. For that itself many people will complain. 0.3 G. Hard acceleration of automobile is 0.5. Panic stop of automobile, even if you apply brake, suddenly it is 0.7 G. Formula 1 race car, it is 2G to 4G. So only in case of amusement park, the roller coaster, etc., you will see what is the maximum acceleration somebody can be subjected to. Okay, I have given one project using a MEMS sensor for measuring acceleration. The best way to measure is you can have a MEMS sensor on your body. It is all powered by just a battery. You can carry it and go on a roller coaster ride and store that. It has a 3-axis MEMS gyro, so it can give you all the 3 accelerations. Okay, so that's all about the effect of acceleration on human being.